St. Patrick's Day. St. Patrick's.
This needs a little bit of editing.
To celebrate St. Patrick's Day, this week we're sampling some whiskey with an E in the form of Samuel Gelston's Blended and single pot still Pinot Noir finished Irish whiskey.
And we welcome the owner of the company, Johnny Neill, and their brand ambassador, my good friend, Tom Mead, onto the show to guide us through those drams as well as the history of the Samuel Gelston's brand.
As always, you can find some more whiskey-based content, images and videos on our social media platforms at Whisky and Things Podcast on Instagram and at Whisky and Things on Facebook and Twitter.
And don't forget to please leave a review on your favourite podcast platform.
You're listening to Whisky and Things with Nick Kent and Dave Giles.
Welcome to episode 52 of the Whisky and Things podcast. I am Dave Giles.
And I'm Nick Kent. Welcome. Welcome. We've made a whole year's worth. This is a whole year's worth. 52 weeks.
Incredible.
Dave.
Incredible scenes, Nick. Incredible scenes. Congratulations.
Congratulations to you, sir. How have we managed it?
I have no idea. No idea.
Me either. But also, happy St. Patrick's Day, mate.
Absolutely. Yesterday, as this episode is released, it is St. Patrick's Day. And of course, neither Nick or I are Irish, but we do like Irish whiskey. So we figured that it would be a good day to drink some Irish whiskey. It's been a while, isn't it? Nick, come on now. When was the last time we did an Irish whiskey?
Are you Chester?
I have no idea.
No.
It's been a while. What have we done? We've done Jameson's. We did Jameson Cask Makes Stout. We've done Teelin.
We've done Connemara.
Did we do Tullamore Dew? We did do Tullamore Dew.
We've done a Tullamore DE Derbia. That's episode 3, I think.
It was way back.
Yeah. Oh, wow. It's way back. I'm currently scrolling through our Spotify.
It's been a long time, hasn't it?
It has been a long time. Good Lord. Okay. No, no. Oh, Jesus.
Was it the last Patreon episode where we did James?
Don't say it was. Oh, we're back to... Oh, yeah. It was 25.
Wow.
No.
Yeah. It's bad form on our part. Really
that is
bad form.
We went for a massive Scotch phase, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. We had all the Scotch. But I think
Christmas got in the way. We did a few special episodes at Christmas. But yeah,
I think what's good is that we're not going to do just one Irish whiskey, Nick. Oh, no. We're going to do 2 Irish whiskies today. 2. I know, Nick. I can see his face. He's like, no way.
We're just keeping on giving. We are giving. Giving.
I know. And so a little bit of background here. I used to play in a pub in Reading, a bar in Reading called The Botanist, and it used to have a manager called Tom Mead. Very nice guy, and me and my friend Danny Gruff got to know him quite well, and we became good friends. When he then moved pubs, we played in that pub as well. Fantastic. And about a year ago, he messaged me saying he'd got a new job working for a spirit company. They mainly do gin, but they do also, under their umbrella, have the Samuel Gelston's Irish whiskey. And he was telling me about it. He was telling me about this one in particular bottle. It was matured in Pinot Noir casks from Sam Neill from Jurassic Park's wine company.
From New Zealand, yeah.
It was obviously very exciting, so I bought a bottle of this whiskey. And then he sent me one of their other bottles in the range. So we got 2 different whiskies to try here. But not only are we joined by Tom with our tasting of this whiskey, we're also joined by the owner of the company, Johnny Neill, who is the second cousin of Sam Neill. And he tells us all about the history of this company, of which his family goes right the way back to the beginning. It's really quite fascinating.
5 generations.
St. Patrick's Day, 2 Irish whiskies. What more could you ask for? Roll the tape.
Sit back, relax. Roll VT. No.
Roll VT.
Yeah.
Whiskey! So welcome, Tom Mead and Johnny Neill to Whisky and Things podcast. Thanks very much for joining us.
Hey, guys.
Hi, guys. How are you?
We're very
Good,
well,
thanks.
How are you on this St. Patrick's Day morning?
Yeah. No, we're great. We're having a crack. So, yeah, be good.
Absolutely. So, Tom and I go back a little while now. I used to play music in a bar that he used to manage. And he, almost a year ago now, messaged me and said, do you know about this whiskey? And really bigged it up, and particularly the Pinot Noir, he wouldn't shut up about. So I got myself a bottle, and I've been waiting. I said, well, you have to come on the podcast, talk about it. We've been waiting for this moment. I've still not tried it. But before we get onto the tasting, can you tell us a little bit more about Samuel Gelston's and the history of how it came to be?
Sure. Quite an old Irish whiskey brand, actually. So it started in 1830, and Samuel Gelston was a wine and spirits merchant in Belfast, in Ulster. So quite a successful man, an entrepreneur. He was a wine merchant predominantly, but also a bonder and blender of whiskey. So he was sourcing whiskies from the distilleries around Ireland, keeping them in casks, blending them together, sending them out in casks, but also bottling some of them as well. He started that in 1830. He grew it until 1869, and then on his death, it was bought by a chap called Harry Neill, and Harry is my great-great-grandfather. So that's where it started, and that's when it came into the Neill family.
Wow! So you've been looking after it for a while then.
Yeah, we've had it for 5 generations, and you know, when Harry bought it, Irish whiskey was very strong, and since then, obviously, Irish whiskey's had a bit of a torrid time. So Harry grew it successfully up to his death in 1891, and then another Harry Neill took it over, and the business itself came to an end in 1949. So as H.J. Neill Limited, it became dormant in 1949, and by that time we'd obviously had Irish independence, World War, and Prohibition, which had ultimately put a death knell in so many Irish distilleries across the 20th century. You know, to a stage where there were 2 distilleries left, and both owned by the same company. So it went the way of several independent brands, really.
So bring us up to date then. How is it now that we have more of this stuff back on our shelves? I'm assuming that's where you come in, right?
Yeah, that's me. I got into the spirits game about 2004, 2005, and I make a bit of gin. But this is an old family brand, and I had the trademark for it, and I wanted to resurrect it. It just took me a very, very long time to get some investment to go and buy some casks and start bottling some fantastic whiskies.
Okay, so that's certainly interesting. So do you have your own distillery at the moment, or are you just doing exactly what you just said?
No, we're very much doing what we were doing in the 19th century. So we're independent bottlers. So we're still sourcing whiskies from Irish distilleries and bottling them under the Gelston's name. So the first expression that I launched, actually, I managed to get hold of some lovely old 1991 casks from a gentleman who's quite well known in the Irish whiskey game, called John Teeling. And so we got hold of a tranche of 1991, 2002, 2003 casks. And our first release was a 25-year-old cask strength, not and chill filtered a whiskey that was, the original casks come from Bushmills. So fantastic, tropically fruity, important, very rare whiskey.
And is the plan to open a distillery?
That is, we're looking for a site at the moment, actually. But we will continue to do what we're currently doing, buying casks and buying whiskey and blending it together or releasing it as single malt. So very much, hopefully, over the next 12 months, we'll have found a site and we will start distilling our own Samuel Gelston's whiskies.
And I mean, this is amazing. I love the fact that this is such a different process to other people that we know of or we've spoke to who have started their own whiskey, either as an independent bottler or as setting up a distillery. Your whole, because you've got this massive history which goes back forever, which is just delightful. So when it comes to the blending, are you the master blender, Johnny, or do you have help with that side of it as well?
We're actually lucky enough because H.J. Neill Limited sits. It's a joint venture between me and Halewood Artisanal Spirits, and they have a wonderful lady called Kirsty McCallum on board, who was Scottish Whisky Blender of the Year last year.
It's a name we've definitely heard of, that's for sure.
From Glen Murray. And she is an amazing lady. And ongoing. She's going to start looking after all the blending, all the maturation, and allow us to form a path for each of our expressions, which is quite exciting. Someone who really knows their stuff.
Yeah,
I'm certainly not a blender. I love spirits, but my knowledge is more about gin rather than whiskey. So brown spirits is new to me.
There's a bit of a connection with the Southern Hemisphere as well, isn't there, with this brand?
There is, and that's got a bit of history to it too. So Harry Neill, who was my great grandfather, was born in Belfast, but he was the second son of a wine merchant as well. So actually a French wine merchant. He was an Irishman, but he was a French wine merchant. He went off to seek his fortune in the gold rush in Australia in 1851. But was sent by his father not to go and dig for gold. So his father said, just don't go digging, don't get involved with that lot, do something different. And he set up a provisions merchant, because his father was a merchant anyway. So he set up a business with a partner called Duncan McCallum, actually. And it was McCallum Neill & Co. that they set up in Melbourne and Geelong, and they were supplying the gold miners with all their provisions. So wine, spirits, but all the other things as well. And they were actually the importers for Dunville's Irish whiskey, the sole importers for Dunville's, which was the big Ulster brand of the time in Melbourne and Geelong. Anyway, Harry's younger brother, so all his brothers came out, the younger ones, and went into the business. And then his youngest brother was a chap called Percival, great Victorian name.
That's a great name.
Who went on to New Zealand and set up a similar business called Neill & Co. in New Zealand. He took over a business that was there, which eventually became the biggest wine and spirits merchant in New Zealand. And Percy's great-grandson is a chap called Sam Neill, who is the actor that people know from Jurassic Park, from Dead Calm, from The Omen 3, and Hunt for the Wilder People, all those great movies, and Peaky Blinders as well. So first season of Peaky Blinders,
where he plays an Irishman.
He is an Irishman. He was born in Northern Ireland. His
there you go.
Irish crop. So. But his father was in the Fusiliers, so Irish Fusiliers. He went back to New Zealand, so he's based in Otago, and he's as well as being an actor, he's very passionate about wine. So he has his own vineyards, and he has a brand called Two Paddocks, which is a very premium organic Pinot Noir wine brand.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll come on to that in a bit, into the collaboration there. The question I had, which I think is more of a business question, really. Obviously, with Irish whiskey, everyone knows Jameson's, and then you've got Bushmills, Teeling coming through, Tullamore Dew. You've got a few brands, not as many as you have Scotch brands or bourbon brands and things like that. Is it a difficult market to crack because the well-known brands are so big? Was that part of your concern when you reset up Gelston's? Or do you think that opens an opportunity because there's interest in whiskey at the moment and there's not that much Irish variety out there? What was your thought process there when taking on the big boys, so to speak?
Yeah, and it is difficult. Jameson's is 80% of the market globally, but also it's a blend. And so what we tried to do with Gelston's was move away to start with from that, and come along with some single malts. In terms of getting into the market, the most difficult thing is the supply of whiskey, because there is not much aged whiskey. There is very, very little aged whiskey. So you become stuck with 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, up to 12-year-old whiskies. That's about as far as you can go. And we were very lucky indeed to get hold of these what's now this year we're looking at a 30-year-old release, and we've got some 18-year-olds. So we're lucky to have that, but there isn't much. All the casks are either owned by Bushmills or Teeling or Irish distillers, who have most of the casks. So part of it is investment. That's the main thing, scary thing, and that's just investment in casks, and then investment in a distillery is a whole nother ball game. You need some serious funding behind you to build a whiskey distillery. And there's got to be a minimum of a 10-year plan in place for laying down stocks on the way.
Yeah.
So,
and if you want to do the triple distillation as well,
triple
that's
distillation,
obviously got to come into account.
Yeah, a point of difference as well which is great for the global market. But yes, it adds extra expense, but it's a helpful tool for us talking about the smoothness and of Irish whiskey. But there are a lot of other brands similar to Gelston's now being reinvigorated, reinvented, new distilleries opening up. I can't remember exactly, but there was something like 21 new Irish whiskey distilleries over the last couple of years have opened up in Ireland, and a lot of old independent bottling brands as well, like ours. So it's a really exciting time for Irish whiskey.
So Tom, what's your role in this whole operation?
So my main role is to do with gin, but because whiskey is an up-and-coming spirit, again, it's reinvigorated with the likes of distilleries popping up. Gelston's is kind of one of my brands that I kind of talk to people about, and when pubs finally reopen, we hope to try and get definitely like the blend into the pubs, because it's what we feel it's going to be kind of going neck and neck to kind of compete with Jameson's, so that we can get it in there. It's also a point of difference when people do care about what they're drinking these days. Well, the last few years, you notice that people care what they drink, and they love a backstory, and like Gelston's has one of the most amazing backstories. If you can start getting some of the teams in the pubs to go about it, then hopefully we can do that. So it'll be mainly gin, looking after a distillery, but I will always have a bottle of whiskey in the car to get people.
Careful.
Unopened.
Yeah, unopened. The samples.
I'm imagining your glove box now, just dropping down, and there being two Glencairns waiting there, with a bottle in the middle.
Yeah, it's temperature controlled as well. So.
Oh, nice.
Classic.
Tom's an ambassador for the H.J. Neill portfolio, so we've got obviously Samuel Gelston's, which was the original brand. We've got a brand called Berkshire Botanical, which is a gin, which we're building a new distillery on. And then we've got Marylebone gin as well. So Tom looks after all those in an ambassadorial sense as well. And he loves drinking them too. So.
When anyone talks about ambassadors, I can't help but just think of Tom walking in to a room and someone coming up with a plate of Ferrero Rocher and going, ambassador.
But instead of Ferrero Rocher, it's Glencairns of whiskey.
Yeah.
Really spoiling us.
Exactly.
Whiskey bots, roll out.
Which one do we want to talk about first? We have the single pot still Irish whiskey, which was finished in Pinot Noir, and we have the blend. So which one would you recommend us try first?
Start with the blend.
Start with the blend.
Oh,
that's a good. That was a
that was a
solid pop.
great cork sound. That was, good solid stopper on the top of that.
Yeah, there was no squeak leading up to it. Just came out of the blue there. It took me by surprise.
Well, and the bottle is, based on the original Gelston's bottle, so the livery is a little bit different. I've got some stuff, you won't be able to see this very well, some of the old whiskey trays from the 1880s. So it says H.J. Neill, Belfast, and it's got one which is presumably a single pot still bottling, and one which is a blended bottling as well on either side, and then the Gelston's logo in the middle. So it's all our brand is based on the original bottle. So
talk us through this blend then. Irish whiskey, so I'm assuming, as Nick said earlier, triple distilled?
So it's an Irish malted barley and grain. But it's been triple distilled, which we finish off in ex-bourbon casks, just to get a nice sweetness. It's got a really light colour to it, which is like a light golden colour. I'm not drinking because I've got to go and do a school pickup now that schools are back. I will be drinking tonight. It's really dry on the nose, hints of spice, bits of fruit. You get, when you get candied sweets, get that right at the end, just that sweetness at the end, which is really nice. Also, I get hints of banana. For me, whenever I have a bit of the blend, I do get a bit of banana.
On the nose?
Yeah, just like slight on the nose, but then when you have that first sip, that's when you can really, and then if you smell it again, That's when the banana comes through for me.
It's really sweet on the nose, isn't it, Nick?
Yeah,
it is sweet.
Really sweet.
Yeah, I'm getting, the spiciness comes through as well a lot.
Actually reminds me more of a Scotch than an Irish whiskey on the nose.
Quite delicate, I think. Though.
Yeah.
It's not overpowering. It's not harsh.
Absolutely.
So it's a blend of a single malt whiskey and a grain whiskey. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Currently, because we don't have our own distillery, we're independent bottlers. We're sourcing this from Great Northern Distillery in Dundalk. So they have a relationship with Brown-Forman. So the bourbon casks that they're getting, or Tennessee casks, are exceptionally good quality. And so that's giving you that vanilla.
Yeah.
And
who are some of the bourbon distilleries who Brown-Forman have? Refresh my memory.
Jack Daniels.
That's one of them. That'll do it.
That would do.
Those guys.
I've heard of that brand.
Yeah, we might have done that on the show.
Yeah.
So JD, yeah, exactly. So they're getting, as soon as they've been used that once for bourbon, they're straight over to Ireland.
Right.
Yeah, I'm definitely on the nose. We'll get drinking this in a moment, but I'm getting the banana thing, as Tom said. It's definitely coming through. The foam banana sweets, Tom.
Oh yeah.
Those things, I'm getting that on the nose. That's sweetness.
It's weird. That's such a lovely and common nosing, isn't it? That banana sweet thing. It's not a bad thing.
I think you said it when you first started doing the podcast. There's so many different flavour profiles, taste profiles, smell profiles, and everyone's unique. That's what makes whiskey such an interesting liquid.
Yeah.
It can taste different to so many people, but it's just been a spirit that's been aged in barrels for a minimum of 3 years.
Nick, have you tried this?
Have I tried it? Yeah, the whole dram of it this morning.
Did you?
Yeah.
Breakfast.
I had Nick's special time.
This is incredible.
This is lovely. And this is what, like, a grain blend done well. This is what I want a grain to taste like. There's another Scotch brand that we've had before, which we've mentioned on the show. I won't say which one it was, but that was a grain whiskey, single grain whiskey, and we didn't like it. It tastes like PVA glue.
Yes.
It had that gluey tinge to it. But this, you can smell the
comes
kind
in
of
a blue
vibes
bottle.
In here. Endorsed by a
footballer.
That's the one.
That one.
But
it's
this
called
is
Hay Club. For those of you, Nick doesn't want to name it, but it's rank. Anyway, carry on.
But this has the same kind of character, but this is how I want Hay Club to taste, if you know what I mean. Or this is what I want a grain whiskey to taste like.
Absolutely.
But I mean, and that, you're getting all that character from the barley, from the malted barley, from the pot still piece. That's where all that character and flavour comes from. Is that pot still, and the grain plays that slightly more neutral role.
This is just so easy to drink.
It's
lovely.
Dangerously easy.
It's so easy to drink, and
it's a good job it's Paddy's Day.
There's that creamy mouthfeel.
Absolutely, creamy mouthfeel.
Honey, I'm getting on the palate. Spice as well. It's beautiful.
You get the spice throughout on the nose, on the palate, and in the finish. It's just...
And there's a build-up of tingle at the end of the finish for me as well, which is nice. So
Nice.
It's comforting.
Tingle.
It's weird.
Stop
it's about
it,
10
yeah.
seconds afterwards, this tingle starts coming in. It's lovely. Then you want to have a sip.
That's what we want you to kind of keep wanting more, because it is just one of those whiskies that you could have all night.
I can't believe this bottle of whiskey is only £20.
I was about to say that. I was about to bring up the price. Yeah. Fantastic.
Well, we wanted to sit in that area. We want, we're in the blended space. You've got Jameson's, you mentioned. You've got Tullamore Dew, things like the Dubliner, Bushmills. We want this to be a similar proposition in terms of we want to compete against those guys.
Yeah.
We want it to be fantastic to sit neat. And if people want it over ice, they can have it over ice. But we also want to use it for mixing. So, it's a great mixing whiskey too.
Yeah. Because you have this is 20 quid. You have some other ones which are a bit more special. You've got a 5-year sherry cask finish, the single malt, and a 10-year bourbon cask. So you have those other options as well if people want to, expand on your collection, right?
Even those are good value though, Nick. The 5-year sherry cask bottle is 25 quid.
Oh, right. Was it?
Yeah. So you're saying about expanding. The 15-year-old sherry cask is 50 quid. But even that, for a 15-year-old bottle of whiskey...
That was one I was thinking about, I think.
It's, because there isn't much stock of 2002, that's a 2003 whiskey that we held in bourbon, and then we moved into Oloroso casks for about 18 months, I think it was. But that's really rare. Yeah, really, really rare. So it's good value.
Definitely.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, going back to the blend as well, it's that hopefully when pubs do open, that alternative for like your Irish coffee, as a mixing coffee, get a good like glug of the blend in there rather than Jameson's. It will stand up to the coffee as well.
Belfast coffee, that's what we like to call it. It being a Belfast brand. So
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm very impressed with that. I think what I really like about it is all the flavors in there are really subtle, but it's a really good combination. Like it's not. Sometimes maybe because we've been trying some quite complex Scotch recently, and I love complex Scotch, but I have to like almost every other sip. I'm like, what's that? What's that? What's that? And it's a bit too overwhelming. Whereas this is just like I can drink this
And not think about it.
not have to think about it
and enjoy it.
Relax.
and enjoy it. And this is just a really good like solid drink. I'm massively. Do you know, Tom? I'm not going to lie. I was nervous because we're friends.
Because
I
I
hadn't
said
tried it.
for you to drink
No. Just because you're friends. I'm like. I'm bringing a friend on who's telling me about this new whiskey, which I've not heard of. He's telling me it's great. What if I don't like it? But generally, I think you can hear in my voice. I'm excited about that. How good that is.
You've seen me behind the bar selling, oh yeah, drink this. It's amazing. It's summer in a glass. Yeah, you'll love it. And then the guests are like, what is this?
Yeah. No, that's very, very good. That's probably the best blend whiskey I've ever had. I really enjoy that.
Okay.
We really liked what we got from Teeling last year. I did. I bought another bottle of that. So we had a sample and then I bought a bottle because I liked that. And obviously we got history with Jameson's, loads of history with Jameson's. That's the nicest Irish whiskey I've ever had. And we've got another one in front of me as well.
There we go. Yeah, I was going to say, wait until you try this one.
This one, my first sniff of this morning, I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
So shall we move on to that then?
yeah.
You're listening to the Whiskey and Things podcast.
What do we have here?
The Pinot finish. So we use the Pinot Noir barrels from Johnny's cousin, Sam Neill, or second cousin Sam Neill, Mr. Jurassic Park from New Zealand in Otago. And the whiskey then matures in there. And we were at a little village market just before Christmas, Johnny and I, and we were selling some of this whiskey, and the people were just coming back for it. Even after a week, they made a hefty dent in the bottle, and the finish, it's got that jamminess that you usually associate with Pinot Noir, like the red fruits. It's just got a nice long finish. You get hints of spice with it, but it's just the soft sweetness from the Pinot Noir, like strawberries and
So guys, this is not a blend. This is not a single malt. This is a single pot still whiskey. So single pot still is really quite unique to Ireland, and it's because of the mash bill on this one. So this is not sourced from Great Northern. We're actually sourcing this from West Cork distillers down in West Cork, down in Skibbereen. So our mash bill for this is 50% malted barley and then 50% unmalted barley. Some of the other single pots out there are using oat, some are using rye, some things like this, but this is quite a nice, simple mix.
50-50.
And I think when you taste a single pot, generally, you might get a little bit of tropical fruit in it anyway, on the nose and up front, which is quite nice. And it's nice to be bringing, I mean, we're not the only ones with a single pot still now, but it seems to be the one that, some of the newer distilleries are coming to market with, which is exciting because that's what historically we would have been using in our blends as well. So Harry's best mate was a chap called Johnny McConnell, and you'll know there's a McConnell's brand in Belfast as well, and they used to own the Cromac distillery. So Old Cromac was one of those brands, and it was a single pot still distillery only, and it was literally 5 minutes walk around the corner from Corporation Street where Harry was based. So he was sourcing that, and he was using it in his blends as well. So it would have been full of flavor, a bit more depth to it than the blend. And this is definitely maltier up front. It's got a bit of tropical fruit on the nose, and then it's got a bit of, like Tom was saying, strawberry and nutmeg, that sort of element on the nose. So and
it smells like Wimbledon to me. Strawberries and cream.
Yeah. Yeah. But then on the palate, when you go in there, yes, it's big and it's sweet, but actually you've got a little bit of dryness there, sort of almost a tannin, like the wine on the palate.
It says on the bottle limited release. How many of these have we got?
Yeah, we did 420 cases of this, so about 2,500 bottles. But this is something that I'm trying to make a core piece of the core range. So I've got Sam sending me some more Pinot casks after they're harvesting at the moment in New Zealand. So we should get another 12 casks at least from him. And they're French barriques, so they're 225 litres, so a little bit bigger. So they're French oak rather than American oak, which is great. So we've got some more of those. And then I've got some other French Pinot casks coming to try and make this a permanent addition to the range. And I'm trying to get hold of some Riesling casks from him as well to age some in Riesling.
That's going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, this is such a different flavour profile from the blend.
Yeah.
You definitely are getting that tannin note in there. And the jam is such a great note. I don't know who said that, but it does have a jam feel to it. Not feel, but a flavour in there. Like I'm like, oh yeah.
It's quite an unctuous feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to what Johnny said, there's a bottle of the pot still coming to you as well, Dave. So you can try that. So you can try the
compare the two.
We've got a regular pot still, which is just bourbon cask. So and then the Pinot cask is spent 18 months in bourbon. So this is about 18 months in bourbon, and then we've been able to transfer it 18 months into Sam's Pinot casks, and then spent 21 months. And so it's quite a long period in the Pinot casks. So that's where it's gathered quite a lot of.
This for a red wine finish has just the right amount of tannin in it. So I've had other ones, funny enough, from New Zealand, just up the road from Dunedin in Oamaru, the New Zealand whiskey collection. They do one called the Oamaruvian.
Okay, I must check that.
It's extremely dark.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Okay.
It's 55.8. But that for me, it's nice. I think you need a bit of water. If you have it neat, the tannin is just takes over. You know, it's a certain character to it, and I love it. But it's a bit too much. The balance of the tannin in here is just right for me. It's beautiful.
This is drier than the blend, which I'm not disappointed with at all. I like that a lot. It is a very different thing. You are getting a fruity note towards the end, though. It's like a dark fruit.
Yeah, blackcurrant.
Blackcurrant. Yeah, definitely. That's definitely coming through at the end. But again, it's that sweetness, and both of these are sweet without being overbearingly sweet. And I think that's what's nice about them. Like, so you can have some things that are so sweet. You're like, whoa, where's that? But this doesn't work like that. I'm a big fan of both of these. These are so drinkable again.
The sweet isn't, the flavour is sweet, yet the mouth feel is dry.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like a mixture between the two, which is...
And I think that might be the triple distillation as well. The fact that it's had that one further distillation compared with...
Right.
Gosh.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. Wonderful.
It's got a lot longer finish, the Pinot Noir, than the blend. It really does develop on the tongue over time.
Yeah.
And this one's only 26 quid.
I can't believe it.
Amazing.
I just can't believe it. For the price you're paying for these whiskies, they are such great experiences.
Whiskey is an experience, an after dinner drink, or especially what we've been going through for the last year, meeting up with people, hopefully in June, get a bottle of whiskey and have that experience, that first night together.
I do love the bottles as well. That it is special, and it does look like it's been around for years, and that there is history to it. I think you've done that really well in terms of not rebrand, but
relaunch.
Rebirth.
The relaunch. You've held on to that, haven't you? Held on to the history, and I think that really adds to it because it's got a classic feel to it. Even when you're holding it, there's a weight to it. And with the embossed glass. Whose signature's on the side here? Is that yours, Johnny?
No, that's me, yes. I couldn't find one at Harry's, so I had to stick my own on.
That's nice.
Just get some wet ink and press it down and...
Yeah.
You get a stamp.
Tip on the side of the bottle.
Yeah, I can definitely see why you've relaunched this brand, which has history, rather than start something new with whiskey. I think that's a tougher sell, isn't it?
Yeah, and lots of stories, and I think that makes it easier for me to talk about and get that passion across because the family's been doing it for so long.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for sending us the blend and the other samples that are on the way. Because we've had so much great whiskey recently, but I am so excited by these. This is absolutely amazing. So thanks for sharing the story and coming on and talking about it. And happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone. And go and get yourself a bottle of this because you won't regret it.
Thanks, Dave.
Have a chaser with your Guinness.
Yeah. Well, what about as a Guinness with a Gelston's top, Tom? Yeah. Have we tried that yet?
Just mix it in, floater, layer it on top.
Yeah. We'll have to work on that, won't we?
A Gelston slammer.
I'll go to the shops now, get a couple of cans in and...
Oh, mate, I can't wait to get together and have some of this with you, that's for sure.
Oh, too, mate. Absolutely.
Irish whiskey. Sure, it's liquid sunshine.
Amazing. And you can watch the full uncut video of that interview if you're a Whisky and Things patron. If you would like to become one and support the show, then please head over to patreon.com/Whisky and Things or follow the link at whiskyandthings.com.
Mate,
yes,
I was so impressed with that whiskey.
Yes,
so impressed. So I'm drinking. I got another glass going now.
If that was an extra £10 a bottle, I'd still be impressed with it as well.
I know.
It's so reasonably priced.
I would say that's the best value for money whiskey we've ever had on the show.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Where can people buy that, Nick?
A few places, but if you head over to samuelgelstons.com, you can get it through there, or they actually tell you other sites you can buy it as well. You can head to Instagram to find out more about them at Samuel Gelston's, and on Facebook and Twitter, they are at Gelston's Irish.
Fantastic.
Yes. I'll be putting all those links in the description as well. So
excellent. And I just love the Jurassic Park connection there as well.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Did I tell you, I've been to New Zealand, mate. I've had some New Zealand Pinot Noir when I went.
Oh, yeah? Any
I haven't
good?
talked about it. Amazing. You have no idea. Not from, I think the South Island is where Sam Neill's is from. I had some from Wahiki off the North Island. But beautiful stuff, and beautiful whiskey. So it's a great story.
Yeah, I just think it's a lovely story. I tell you what I was very impressed with. I was impressed that Johnny Neill was able to rattle off the history of that company with no notes. He knew his family history.
Yeah.
Like, he really knew his family history. And then the other side of it, when you asked him about the New Zealand connection, he knew that as well.
Yeah.
Just like all that family history was just all there inside his head. So I was very impressed listening to him there. And, but I don't think I've been that excited about a drop of whiskey in ages.
You're very excited.
And I was really excited.
It was another lunchtime dram as well for us, wasn't it?
Yeah.
There seems to be a theme. The last couple have been lunchtime drams.
They've sent over a couple of other bottles of some of their other products for us to taste at a later date. So I'm sure we're going to revisit Samuel Gelston's as well. But you may not have heard of them before. If you haven't, definitely check them out because it's money well spent for sure.
Yeah.
Why they ever let two Englishmen have a whiskey podcast, I'll never know.
So, Nick, 1 year they're up. 1 year.
52 down.
Done and dusted.
I'm tired. Can I go to bed?
Are we calling it end of season one? Season one's done.
I was wondering about that. But aren't seasons meant to have a break between them?
Yeah, we don't need a break. we haven't gone anywhere.
You might not. Probably. I don't know if it matters, does it? I don't know. I just click a box saying season 2 when I upload it. We'll see what happens.
But there we go.
But of course, next week is episode 53, which marks our 1 year anniversary. So we'll be airing our party show we recorded a couple of weeks ago with an audience of our Patreon subscribers.
Man, that was a good night.
It was a good night, wasn't it? If you were there, hope you had fun. And everyone else will be able to listen to it next week. Yeah, it was a fun show. So
absolutely.
We tried the Glenfiddich 15-year-old Solera edition, everyone. So, yes, what everyone thinks of that next week. And we have a special guest in Robbie Coles as well.
Robbie Coles.
What a legend. He's
absolutely.
Yeah, he'll enjoy it. He's just Robbie Coles. And he was fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Another episode done. We'll be back next week for start of season 2. Thanks for joining us. And have you spoke to the whiskey god recently? It's been ages.
I've forgotten what he sounds like, to be honest.
Me too.
He's hard to get hold of now. He's hard to get hold of, yeah.
Anyway, no one cares. So, cheers. Thanks for coming.
Whisky and Things has been brought to you by And Things Productions.